A biker is riding a new motorcycle on the highway. While passing a car, he knocks on the window. The driver of the car opens the window. Yes? Ever driven an Indian motorcycle? No, I haven't. The biker drives on until he sees another car. While passing it, he knocks on the window. The driver of the car opens the window. Yes? Ever driven an Indian motorcycle? No, I haven't. Then suddenly there's a curve, and the biker sees it too late. He crashes off the road into a ditch. A car stops, and a man runs to the unlucky biker. Covered in blood, the biker asks, "Ever driven an Indian motorcycle?" "Yes, I have. I had one for 20 years. The biker says, "Tell me, where are the brakes?" My wife and I have been married for 35 years, and I've never let her look into the safe. Last week, when I went to the market, she looked in the safe. When I got back, she said, "Jethro, I looked into the safe." "I told you not to look in the safe. There's $40,000 in cash in there and 3 eggs. What are the eggs for?" "Well, I'll be honest. Every time I shagged someone else's wife, I put an egg in the safe." "That's not bad in 35 years, is it?" "No, but when I get a dozen, I sell them, and that's where the money comes from." Man in the confession box says to the priest, "Father, I had sex with 7 women last night." Priest says, "Go home and drink the juice of 10 lemons." Man says, "Will I be forgiven?" "No," says priest, "but it will wipe that feckin' smile off your face." One winter night, a heavy snowstorm had covered a woman's van with snow, and it was stuck in their driveway, preventing her from driving it to work. Her husband got out the snow shovel and dug around the wheels to clear the snow. He then rocked the van back and forth and finally pushed the van free of the snow, and his wife was able to drive it onto the road and headed off to work. A short while later, while his wife was driving down the road, she heard an odd noise coming from under the van. A little worried about the noise, she got on her mobile phone and called home. "Thank God you answered," she said when her husband picked up the phone. "There's this alarming sound coming from under the van. For a minute, I thought I was dragging you down the highway." In a shocked voice, her husband replied, "And you didn't stop to check?" An 18-year-old girl tells her mom she has missed her period for 1 month. Very worried, the mother goes to the drugstore and buys a pregnancy kit. The test result shows that the girl is pregnant. Shouting, cursing, and crying, the mother says, "Who was the pig that did this to you? I want to know." The girl picks up the phone and makes a call. Half an hour later, a Ferrari stops in front of their house. A mature and distinguished man with gray hair and impeccably dressed in an Armani suit steps out of the Ferrari and enters the house. He sits in the living room with the father, mother, and the girl and tells them, "Good morning. Your daughter has informed me of the problem. I can't marry her because of my personal family situation, but I'll take charge. I will pay all costs and provide for your daughter for the rest of her life. Additionally, if a girl is born, I will bequeath a Ferrari, a beach house, 2 retail stores, a townhouse, a beachfront villa, and a $2 million bank account. If a boy is born, my legacy will be a couple of factories and a $4 million bank account. If twins, they will receive a factory and $2 million each. However, if there is a miscarriage, what do you suggest I do?" At this point, the father, who had remained silent, places a hand firmly on the man's shoulder and tells him, "You f*** her again." A woman of the night walks into a bar and sits next to a regular, face down in his bourbon and coke. The old man stirs a bit and looks up and down the woman next to him, then says, "Can I smell your pussy?" With disgust, she says, "No." "Must be your feet," the old man slurs before putting his head back down on the bar. One day, a father was driving home when he suddenly remembered it was his daughter's birthday. He rushed into a toy store and asked the clerk, "How much were the Barbies in the window?" The clerk replied, "We have Workout Barbie, 1995, Shopping Barbie, 1995, Beach Barbie, 1995, Disco Barbie, 1995, Ballerina Barbie, 1995, Astronaut Barbie, 1995, Skater Barbie, 1995, Divorced Barbie, $265.95. The dad blinked. Wait, what? Why is Divorced Barbie $265.95? The clerk sighed and said, "Because Divorced Barbie comes with Ken's car, Ken's house, Ken's boat, Ken's furniture, Ken's computer, and one of Ken's friends." A man was being tailgated by a stressed-out woman on a busy street. Suddenly, the light turned yellow just ahead of him, and he did the right thing. He stopped at the crosswalk. The woman behind him lost it. She laid on the horn, yelling and gesturing wildly because she missed her chance to make the light. Right in the middle of her rant, there was a tap on her window. She looked up to see a police officer. She was taken to the police station and placed in a holding cell. A couple of hours later, the officer opened the door and said, "I'm very sorry for the mistake. You see, I pulled up behind your car while you were blowing your horn, flipping off the guy in front of you and cussing up a storm. Then I noticed the 'What would Jesus do?' bumper sticker, the 'Follow me to Sunday school' sticker, and the chrome-plated Christian fish on the trunk. So naturally, I assumed the car was stolen." At 3 a.m., a desk clerk at a hotel gets a call from a drunk guy asking what time the bar opens. "It opens at noon," answers the clerk. About an hour later, he gets a call from the same guy, sounding even drunker. "What time does the bar open?" he asks. "Same time as before, noon," replies the clerk. Another hour passes, and he calls again, plastered. "What time did you say the bar opens at?" The clerk then answers, "It opens at noon, but if you can't wait, I can have room service send something up to you." "No, I don't want to get in. I want to get out." Three men are on a hot air balloon, but it's losing altitude. They need to get rid of things quickly. The first man grabs some planks of wood and throws them off the side of the balloon. The second man throws 3 heavy rocks off of the balloon. The last man drops a bomb off the side. The balloon is no longer falling but flying through the air. However, on the ground, a police officer finds a man crying on the street. He runs up to him and asks him why he is crying. The man responds, "Well, I was just walking when some planks of wood fell from the sky and hit me on the head." Further up the road, the policeman sees another person crying. When he asked the person what was wrong, they responded, "I was going to get lunch when these heavy rocks fell and hit me hard on the foot." Finally, the policeman sees someone laughing hysterically. He asks him why he is laughing, and he says, "Well, I farted and the building behind me exploded." Jim was fixing a door and realized he needed a new hinge, so he sent his wife, Susie, to the hardware store. While waiting for the manager, Joe, to finish helping another customer, Susie noticed a beautiful silver teapot on the top shelf. When Joe came over, she asked, "How much for the teapot?" Joe replied, "That one's silver. It costs $300. Susie gasped, "My goodness, that's a lot of money." Then she explained the hinge Jim needed, and Joe went to the back to find it. From the storeroom, he called out, "Susie, do you want a screw for that hinge?" Susie smiled and shouted back, "No, but let's talk about that teapot." The wife walked into the bathroom and froze. Her husband was on his knees, lovingly scrubbing his Harley in the bathtub like it was a newborn baby. She yelled, "Are you insane? That's where I take my baths." Her husband grinned proudly. "Relax, honey. Your lavender bubble bath really brings out the chrome." She crossed her arms. "Unbelievable! You treat that motorcycle better than you treat me." He shrugged. Of course, she doesn't nag, she just purrs when I ride her. She glared. Where exactly do you plan on keeping it after this? He smiled. Don't worry, babe, I moved your shoes out of the closet. She's sleeping in our room tonight. The wife groaned. Perfect. I'm officially in a love triangle with a Harley. He winked. At least this one doesn't ask me to put the seat down. A driver was stuck in a traffic jam on the highway outside Washington, D.C. Nothing was moving. Suddenly, a man knocks on the window. The driver rolls down the window and asks, "What's going on?" Terrorists have kidnapped the entire U.S. Congress, and they're asking for a $100 million ransom. Otherwise, they're going to douse them all in gasoline and set them on fire. We're going from car to car collecting donations. How much is everyone giving on average? The driver asks. The man replies, roughly a gallon. A wife arrived home after a long shopping trip and was horrified to find her husband in bed with a young, lovely thing. Just as she was about to storm out of the house, her husband stopped her with these words. "Before you leave, I want you to hear how this all came about. Driving home, I saw this young girl looking poor and tired, and I offered her a ride. She was hungry, so I brought her home and fed her some of the roast you had forgotten about in the refrigerator. Her shoes were worn out, so I gave her a pair of your shoes you didn't wear because they were out of style. She was cold, so I gave her that new birthday sweater you never wore even once because the color didn't suit you. Her slacks were worn out, so I gave her a pair of yours that you don't fit into anymore. Then, as she was about to leave the house, she paused and asked, 'Is there anything else that your wife doesn't use anymore?' And so, here we are. She came to me on her hands. Wife had delivered twins.
Dad, a girl invited me over to her house.
Oh, that is great, Billy. But you should be careful. You are young, and an STD or unwanted pregnancy is going to be devastating. Please remember to wear a condom if the situation arises. Actually, no. I don't trust you, son. Put it on right now, because at the heat of the moment, you will forget. And so Billy did, and he heads over to the girl's place. After a chat and some drinks, things got saucy. "Wait," she said. "In order to continue, you have to pass a test." She then removed her shirt, proclaiming, "My breasts, pure and untouched. Only the sun on beach days had ever had a feel of them." She then removed her skirt. "My thighs, pure and touched by no one. Only the wind on breezy days has ever felt their softness." Finally, she removed her panties. "And last, my vagina, pure and untouched. No one has ever felt its warmth, nor the wind, nor the sun. So, tell me, Billy, should I let you feel my body? Are you capable of matching my purity?" "Sure," he claims as he pulls down his pants. "I am so pure and untouched, my willy is still in the wrapper." Two cowboys came upon an Indian lying on his stomach with his ear to the ground. One of the cowboys stops and says to the other, "You see that Indian?" "Yeah," says the other cowboy. "Look," says the first one, "he's listening to the ground. He can hear things from miles in any direction." Just then the Indian looks up. "Covered wagon," he says, "about 2 miles away. Have 2 horses, 1 brown and 1 white. Man, woman, child, furniture in wagon." "Incredible," says the cowboy to his friend. "This Indian knows how far away they are, how many horses, what color, and what's in the wagon. Just amazing." The Indian looks up and says, "Ugh, not amazing. A wagon ran over me 30 minutes ago." A guy was wandering through the Sahara Desert, desperate for water, when he spotted something far off in the distance. With hope in his heart, he walked toward it, only to find an old man sitting at a card table covered in neckties. The guy pleaded, "Please, I'm dying of thirst. Can I have some water?" The old man replied, "I don't have any water, but how about a tie? This one would look great with your shirt." The guy snapped, "I don't want a tie, you lunatic. I need water." The old man stayed calm. "Okay, don't buy a tie, but I'll still help you. About 5 miles over that dune, my brother runs a restaurant. They'll give you all the water you want." The guy thanked him and stumbled away toward the dune. 3 hours later, the guy came crawling back, parched and exhausted. The old man said, "What happened? Couldn't you find the restaurant?" The guy rasped, "I found it, but they wouldn't let me in without a tie." The husband was filled with pleasure, with a huge smile on his face as his wife moved forward, then backwards again, back and forth, in and out, in and out. It was going on 20 minutes at this point. Her heart was pounding, her face was flushed, then she moaned, softly at first, then began to groan louder. Finally, totally exhausted, she let out an almighty scream and shouted, "Okay, I can't park the damn car. You do it, you smug bastard." One day, a woman was playing golf when she hit her ball into the woods. She went to look for it in the woods and found a frog in a trap. The frog said to her, "If you release me from this trap, I will grant you 3 wishes." The woman released the frog, and the frog said, "Thank you, but I didn't mention that your wishes have a condition. Whatever you wish for, your husband will get 10 times more or better." She said that would be okay, and for her first wish, she wanted to be the most beautiful woman in the world. The frog warned her, "You know that this wish also makes your husband the most beautiful man in the world, and women will flock too?" She replied, "That'll be okay, because I will be the most beautiful woman, and he will only have eyes for me." So, kazam, she's the most beautiful woman in the world. For her second wish, she wanted to become the richest woman in the world. The frog said, "That will make your husband the richest man in the world, and he will be 10 times richer than you." She said, "That will be okay, because what is mine is his, and what is his is mine." So, kazam, she is the richest woman in the world. The frog then asked about her third wish, and she answered, "I'd like a mild heart attack." It was autumn, and the Indians on the remote reservation asked their new chief if the winter was going to be cold or mild. Since he was an Indian chief in a modern society, he had never been taught the old secrets, and when he looked at the sky, he couldn't tell what the weather was going to be. Nevertheless, to be on the safe side, he replied to his tribe that the winter was indeed going to be cold, and that the members of the village should collect wood to be prepared. But also being a practical leader, after several days he got an idea. He went to the phone booth, called the National Weather Service, and asked, "Is the coming winter going to be cold?" "It looks like this winter is going to be quite cold indeed," the meteorologist at the Weather Service responded. So the chief went back to his people and told them to collect even more wood in order to be prepared. 1 week later, he called the National Weather Service again. "Is it going to be a very cold winter?" he asked. "Yes," the man at the National Weather Service again replied. "It's going to be a very cold winter." The chief again went back to his people and ordered them to collect every scrap of wood they could find. 2 weeks later, he called the National Weather Service again. "Are you absolutely sure that the winter is going to be very cold?" "Absolutely," the man replied. "It looks like it's going to be one of the coldest winters ever." "How can you be so sure?" the chief asked. The weatherman replied, "The Indians are collecting firewood like crazy." One day, a drunken man walks into a coffee shop. "Do you have iced coffee?" "No, sir, we don't," said the coffee shop owner. "So, okay," the drunk man said. Then he leaves. He comes back 20 minutes later. "Do you have iced coffee?" he asks again. "No, sir, we don't. I told you before," said the owner. "Oh, I am sorry. said the drunken man as he waddled off. He comes again 20 minutes later. Do you have iced coffee? Sir, I told you before, we do not have any iced coffee. Wow. Okay then. You don't have to tell me twice, exclaims the drunkard, and leaves. This time, the owner decides to put coffee in a bucket of ice and wait. Indeed, 20 minutes later, the drunkard returns. Do you have iced coffee? He inquires. Why, yes, sir, we do, says the owner with a smile. Ugh, could you heat a cup for me then?
Sean, who was a commercial traveler many years ago, became lost on a strange road on a wild, cold, stormy night. His car broke down. He thought he was in for a terrible night staying in the car, but saw a house light in the distance. Half an hour later, soaked to the skin, he knocked on the house door. A farmer opened the door. Seeing a stranger so cold and wet, he asked him in to dry by the fire. The farmer and his wife provided true country hospitality. They showed him to a bathroom where he stripped and changed into a dressing gown so his clothes could dry by the fire. They had no phone at the house. The farming couple fed him and said he'd better spend the night on the settee. While he was eating supper with them, a lovely young woman came downstairs. The farmers introduced her as their daughter, Ida. In the small hours of the morning, the traveler realized the farmer's wife was in the lounge putting wood on the fire. "You poor man," she said, "you must be so cold. Would you like our Ida down?" The traveler replied, "Oh, no thanks, I couldn't cope. She's been down twice already." Every Monday morning for years, at about 11:30 a.m., the telephone operator in a small Sierra Nevada town received a call from a man asking the exact time. One day, the operator summoned up the nerve to ask him about the regularity. "I'm foreman of the local sawmill," he explained. "Every day I have to blow the whistle at noon, so I call you to get the exact time." The operator giggled. "That's really funny," she said. "All this time we've been setting our clock by your whistle." A while back, at the entrance of a gym, there was a picture of a very thin and beautiful woman. The caption was, "This summer, do you want to be a mermaid or a whale?" The story goes, a woman of clothing size unknown answered the following way: "Dear people, whales are always surrounded by friends, dolphins, seals, curious humans. They are sexually active and raise their children with great tenderness. They entertain like crazy with dolphins and eat lots of prawns. They swim all day and travel to fantastic places like Patagonia, the Barren Sea, or the coral reefs of Polynesia. They sing incredibly well and sometimes even are on CDs. They are impressive and dearly loved animals, which everyone defends and admires. Mermaids do not exist. But if they existed, they would line up to see a psychologist because of a problem of split personality, woman or fish. They would have no sex life and could not bear children. Yes, they would be lovely, but lonely and sad. And who wants a girl that smells like fish by his side? Without a doubt, I'd rather be a whale. At a time when the media tells us that only thin is beautiful, I prefer to eat ice cream with my kids, to have dinner with my husband, to eat and drink and have fun with my friends. One Sunday, the pastor told his congregation the church needed a little extra money and asked everyone to give what they could in the offering plate. He added, "Whoever gives the most will get to pick out 3 hymns." After the offering was collected, the pastor looked down and saw a $1,000 bill. Excited, he announced it to the church and said he wanted to personally thank the generous giver. A sweet elderly lady in the back quietly raised her hand. Smiling, the pastor invited her to the front and thanked her for her generosity. "Now," he said, "as promised, you can pick out 3 hymns." Her eyes lit up as she looked over the congregation. Then she pointed to the 3 most handsome men in the room and said, "I'll take him, him, and him." A man has to drive for a few days to get to his new house. After a long and tiring drive throughout the night, the driver decides to pull over on the side of the road to take a nap. A man knocks on the car's window, and this wakes the driver from his sleep. The man asks the driver what time it is. The driver looks at his watch and replies, "It's 8 a.m.," and goes back to sleep. After a while, another man knocks on the car's window and wakes the driver from his sleep. This man also asks the driver what time it is. The driver replies, "It's 8:05 a.m.," and goes back to sleep. Sure enough, after a while, again another man knocks on the car's window and asks the same question. The driver, now annoyed, replies, "It's 8:07 a.m." He picks up a piece of paper and writes in bold letters, "I don't know what time it is," sticks it on the car's window, and goes back to sleep. The driver is again woken from his sleep by a knock on his window. The man knocking on the window says, "It's 8:10 a.m. You're welcome." Jake is struggling through a bus station with two huge and heavy suitcases when a stranger walks up to him and asks, "Have you got the time?" Jake sighs, puts down the suitcases, and glances at his wrist. "It's 5:45, he says. "Hey, that's a pretty fancy watch," exclaims the stranger. Jake brightens a little. "Yeah, it's not bad. Check this out." He shows him a time zone display for every time zone in the world. He hits a few buttons, and from somewhere on the watch, a voice says, "The time is 6:11. Jake continues, "I've put in regional accents for each city. The display is of unbelievably high quality, and the voice is simply astounding." The stranger is struck dumb with admiration. "That's not all," says Jake. He pushes a few more buttons, and a tiny but very high-resolution map of New York City appears on the display. "The flashing dot shows our location by satellite positioning," explains Jake. "I want to buy this watch," says the stranger. "Oh, no, it's not ready for sale yet. I'm still working out the bugs," says the inventor. "But look at this." And he proceeds to demonstrate that the watch is also a very creditable little FM radio receiver with a digital tuner, a sonar device that can measure distances up to 125 meters, a pager with thermal paper printout, and most impressive of all, the capacity for voice recordings of up to 300 standard-sized books, says Jake. "I've got to have this watch," says the stranger. "No, you don't understand. It's not ready. I'll give you $1,000 for it." "Oh, no, I've already spent more than that." "I'll give you $5,000 for it." "But it's just not." "I'll give you $15,000 for it." And the stranger pulls out a checkbook. Jake stops to think. He's only put about $8,500 into materials and development, and with $15,000 he can make another one and have it ready for merchandising in only 6 months. The stranger frantically finishes writing the check and waves it in front of him. "Here it is, ready to hand to you right here and now. $15,000. Take it or leave it." Jake abruptly makes his decision. "Okay," he says, and peels off the watch. They make the exchange, and the stranger starts happily away. "Hey, wait a minute," calls Jake after the stranger turns around warily. He points to the two suitcases he'd been trying to wrestle through the bus station. "Don't forget your batteries." Brian's stress level was at unsurpassed levels. His wife Maggie was in labor, and Brian was sure it was time to head to the hospital. Breathing heavily, Brian grabbed the phone and called the doctor. "My wife! She's ready! Should we come?" The doctor tried to relax the poor fellow. "Just try to relax. Now tell me how much time elapses between the contractions." "Surely!" Brian screamed on the top of his lungs. "How much time in between the contractions?" 10 minutes? "Okay, 10 minutes in between." "And is this her first child?" questioned the doctor. "No, you stupid nitwit! This is her husband!" A rabbi, a Hindu priest, and a politician went on a hike. Night fell and they were exhausted. The hotel on the map was nowhere to be seen. They knocked on the door of a farm and asked if they could spend the night.
The farmer said, "Of course, but I only have a small room with 2 beds. One of you will have to sleep in the barn." The Hindu priest said, "I need no material comforts. I will gladly take the barn." The rabbi and the politician were settling in when they heard a knock on the door. They opened it to find the Hindu priest standing there. "So sorry, my friends, but there is a cow in the barn, and I cannot sleep beside such a holy animal." The rabbi said, "No problem, my brother. I'll take the barn." The Hindu priest and the politician were settling in when they heard a knock on the door. They opened it to find the rabbi standing there. "So sorry, my friends, but there's a pig in the barn, and I can't sleep beside such a filthy animal." The politician said, "Okay, let it be remembered that I sacrificed my comfort for the greater good." The rabbi and the Hindu priest were settling in when they heard a knock on the door. They opened it to find the pig and the cow standing there. At school, little Timmy was told by a classmate that most adults are hiding at least one terrible dark secret, which makes it really easy to blackmail them by saying, "I know the whole truth." Timmy decides to go home and try it out. He walks in and greets his mother. "Mom, I know the whole truth." His mother quickly hands him $30 and whispers, "Please don't tell your father." Feeling pleased, Timmy waits for his dad to come home from work. As soon as Dad walks in, Timmy says, "Dad, I know the whole truth." To his surprise, Dad hands him $50 and says, "Please don't say anything to your mother." Now very pleased with his new money-making scam, little Timmy heads out to school the next morning. On the way, he sees the mailman at his front door. Timmy looks at him and says, "Mailman, I know the whole truth." The mailman immediately drops the mail, opens his arms wide, and says, "Then come give your real dad a big hug." A police officer pulls over a speeding car. Officer: "I clocked you at 80 miles per hour, sir." Driver: "Oh no, officer. I had the cruise control set at 60. Must be your radar gun." Not looking up from her knitting, the wife says, "Don't be silly, dear. This car doesn't have cruise control." The officer starts writing the ticket. The driver glares at his wife. "Can't you please keep your mouth shut for once?" The wife smiles sweetly and says, "Well, dear, you should be thankful your radar detector went off, or you'd have been going even faster." The officer pauses, then writes a second ticket for the illegal radar detector. The driver, now furious, growls, "Woman, must you talk?" The officer frowns. "And I notice you're not wearing a seat belt, sir. That's an automatic $75 fine." Driver: "I had it on, but took it off to get my wallet when you pulled me over." Wife: "Now, dear, you know you never ever wear your seatbelt when you drive." The officer begins writing out ticket number 3. The driver explodes. "Why don't you please just shut up?" The officer turns to the wife and asks gently, "Ma'am, does your husband always talk to you this meanly?" Wife: "Only when he's had a skinful of booze, officer.